Hey there, welcome to another episode of Maniac Red Devils. Today we will be doing a season review. We will be rating each and every player based on their performances last season. But let's see how we fared as a team. Starting from Premier League, we finished second in the league, about 12 points behind the eventual winners, Manchester City. Uh, to be honest, at the start of the season, if someone had told me that we would be finishing second in the league above Liverpool and Chelsea, I would have taken that. To be honest, but there are certain areas which we need improvement. So overall, a decent outing in the Premier League. Now coming to the next UEFA Champions League, we were knocked out in the group stages. We were in a very tough group. You can call it the group of death. We were with PSG and RB Leipzig. Even though we started well, defeated PSG away, thrashed Leipzig at home. We seemed to battle against the supposedly the easiest team in the group, against Istanbul Basaksehir, and needing just 1 point of the last two games, we lost both our games and were knocked out of the competition and relegated to the Europa League. Europa League we did fairly well, did well against all the Spanish and Italian oppositions that we faced. More or less convincingly, we went to the final. In the final, we faced Villarreal, who was seventh in the Spanish Liga. So we were expected to beat them easily, but Unai Emery, the manager who has had quite a bit of success in this competition, literally schooled early, and they went on to win in the penalties. So overall, that's not a desirable result for us. Now coming to the domestic competitions, FA Cup, we had a good opportunity, defeated Liverpool, but then were knocked out by the eventual champions Leicester in the quarter-finals. We should have won that game, and who knows, if we had won that game, we could have gone all the way in the competition. Now another tournament was the Carabao Cup. Again, we lost in the semis to a very good Manchester City side. They were again the winners of the competition. We progressed to the business end of each and every tournament that we played in, but apart from the Champions League, but somehow failed to win or go all the way in all of these competitions. Now coming to the individual player ratings. Let's start off with the goalkeeping situation. We had two goalkeepers which only rotated in both the league and the cup competitions. Initially started with De Gea, who initially had a sluggish start to the season and then improved as the season went on. Now, especially in the last half of the season, especially last 3 or 4 games, De Gea was very good. He put in man of the match performances against Chelsea, against Fulham, against Roma in the semi-finals of the Europa League. So you can't really blame him, even though you can say that we lost to Villarreal in the penalties and he missed a penalty, but you can't really expect a goalkeeper to be scoring penalties. So I don't really blame him for missing the penalty. I would give him a 7.5 based on his performances this season. This has probably been not the best of his season, but certainly not far from his best season either. The other goalkeeper, Dean Henderson, the British media identifying him to be future number 1 for United, but at this moment, in terms of quality, he certainly seems to lag quite behind David De Gea. He started the season on a positive, confident note, but when given opportunities in the big games, he seemed to falter. He conceded a goal against Sheffield United, which he shouldn't have. Against Milan in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, he shouldn't have conceded that goal. Plus in the Liverpool game, at least 3 of the 4 goals were down to his fault. So overall, I would rate him 6.5 out of 10. It was his first season at as a goalkeeper in Manchester United, so there's a lot of improvement that he can make. However, it was just his first season and he's only 24, so I wouldn't mark him down any less than 6.5. Now coming to the defenders. Now defensively, there need to be some improvement made in our first team. Our skipper Harry Maguire, he had a sluggish start to the season, but as the season went on, he looked good and solid, especially after December. He has improved quite a lot, especially the games that he played alongside Bailly, who is a fast centre half. He looked pretty good. But again, alongside Lindelof, he doesn't look his usual self. Maybe that's partly because both seem to lack pace, and if there's a runner in the opposition team, they both seem to struggle. So based on this season's performance, I would give him a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. Now coming to Victor Lindelof, he has had a pretty appalling start to the season. Against Crystal Palace, he was pathetic, and he ended the season on a similar note. In between, he has had a few good games here and there, especially with the games that he had played alongside Bailly. He looked pretty solid, and against Swansea in that PSG away game, he looked solid. But apart from that, pretty mediocre, not worthy of a Manchester United centre half. So he can only be a squad player at best for me. So we need a centre back for next season, and he can come in as third or fourth choice for next season. So for me, he gets a 5.5 or 6 out of 10. Actually, 6 would be too lenient. 5.5 is better. In fact, if I give him 5.5, I can give Maguire a 6.5. 7 would be too high a score for him, actually, to be honest. Now coming to the fullbacks, I think they have had pretty decent seasons, especially if you consider Luke Shaw. He has been one of the contenders of the Player of the Season. In fact, he won the Players Player of the Year. He was absolutely a beast, going up and down the pitch. He was good offensively, creating assists for the forwards. Defensively as well, he has had a terrific season. Apart from maybe the last 2 or 3 games where he just struggled a bit with his concentration, but apart from that, he was pretty good. So I would give him 8.5 out of 10. Now Aaron Wan-Bissaka, or other fullback, I think he also has improved quite a lot when it comes to his performances over the last season. But we do need a backup right back just to give him rest every now and then, because at times he looks knackered and totally jaded out. He is good defensively, especially on one-on-one situations. He has improved going forward, but his crossing with his crossing there remains a lot to be desired. And his defensive positioning, I think the defensive coaches need to work with him a lot regarding that. But apart from that, he has had a pretty decent season. He and Luke Shaw, one of the few players who can go on to be a part of a title-winning United side for me, but we need massive changes otherwise. He gets a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Apart from these two, the other fullbacks, Alex Telles and Brandon Williams, they didn't get enough game time for me to be able to mark them. Same goes with Axel Tuanzebe as well. Oh, I missed Eric Bailly. Eric Bailly, I would guess would get the same as Victor Lindelof. He as usual had his share of injuries, or also struggled with COVID, and ever since coming back from COVID, he looked a bit off pace. But apart from that, the other games that he played alongside Lindelof, or be it again alongside Maguire, in the middle half of the season, he looked quite good. In fact, I think there was a match-winning tackle from him against probably Aston Villa. That was pretty good. So maybe I would be tempted to give him 6, but then his injuries throughout the course of the season does not quite do him justice. So 5.5 out of 10 for Bailly. Now coming to the midfield. First, I'll come to Scott and Fred. Scott McTominay, he and Fred, both of them have been used by Oye as a double pivot in our midfield. But I think that going forward, that should not be an option for us, because they can do a job defensively, but going forward, I don't think they quite have that creativity for us to be doing well against teams, especially with a low block. So pretty mediocre midfielders. I think they can be at best squad players. Another thing with McTominay is that Ole prefers to play him as a CDM, but I don't think that he's a CDM at all. In fact, his better performances in a United shirt have been in those games where he has played more closer to the opposition box than in our own box. So McTominay and Fred both get 5.5 out of 10 for me. Fred's similar scenario. He cannot play CDM due to his poor first touch. Plus, he doesn't have the pass in him that is needed of a CDM, a carry type CDM that can split defenses. His passing always seems to be a bit off. Otherwise, he is good at breaking up play, intercepting. He's got lots of energy. For that, I'll give him a 5.5 out of 10. He started the season quite well, but as the season went on, his limitations were highlighted against teams in the lower half of the table, especially. Now coming to our other midfielder, Donny van de Beek, I don't think he has been played that much by Ole. In fact, he has been terribly underutilized by Ole, so it's difficult for me to mark him. That's why I would keep him aside. Coming to Pogba, he also had a pretty ordinary start to the season, then suffered from COVID, then coming back from COVID didn't look his usual self, struggled with playing the full games. But since the turn of the year, he has looked good, looked fresh, and he has looked hungry, and he has been more consistent in the last of the half of the season than he has ever been in a United shirt. So I would give him a 7.5 out of 10, just because of a decent second half of the season. In fact, no, I would give him a 6.5. I would give him a 7 out of 10 for a decent second half of the season. And now coming to Bruno Fernandes, for me he is the player of the year for us. He also won our player of the year trophy. He was absolutely central to everything that we created on the pitch. Ever since he has come to United from Sporting, he has looked absolutely phenomenal. Apart from the second half of the season, maybe this year, because I think he has been played too much, got worn out, looked leggy at times. Maybe that had affected his performances in the last few games, but apart from that, I think he has been absolute phenomenal and probably the best signing since Sir Alex. For me, he gets 8.5 out of 10. Now coming to our forward positions, Marcus Rashford, he has had a decent season, not the best of seasons for him, but there have been times in most matches, in quite a few matches, that he has produced magic. That moment of magic that he has the ability to create is what separates him from the rest. He just needs to work on his final decision making in the final third. If he can improve on that, I think he can become among the top 5 or 10 players in the world. But apart from that, I think he has been played too much by Ole. Plus he has had his share of injuries, and in fact I think he was playing most of the games through his injury. So that's why I think his performances were affected a bit. I would give him a 7 out of 10 for this season. Apart from that, Mason Greenwood. Mason Greenwood, he also had a sluggish start to the season, surrounded by controversies, especially the one during his international duty with Phil Foden. But he has shown enough maturity to come back from it, and I think Ole has handled the situation quite well. The second half of the season, he has had a very good second half of the season. Scored goals, created chances. Mason Greenwood, I think, is someone whose game has really been helped by playing alongside the likes of Edinson Cavani, who has, I think, for me, has been a great influence to him. Plus, I think Ole has also handled the situation around Mason Greenwood pretty well, and he himself has shown the maturity that is required at this level. And for me, he has been quite decent this season, but next season will be the one for him to kick on and really show everyone that he is the one to stay here. And all the talks regarding him being a generational talent, he has to show that those are true, and he has to prove them right. Now coming to Edinson Cavani. Edinson Cavani, for me, has had a very good season. He was a last moment panic signing for us. He struggled with his injuries at the start of the season due to lack of match practice and injuries. He has struggled initially, but apart from that, whenever he has played, he's looked solid. He's got the goals with his good with his position, with his movement in the box. He has been an absolute joy to the likes of Bruno and Paul Pogba, who are our main creators in chief. So Edinson Cavani for me gets 7.5 out of 10. I'm deducting the points only because he has been available. He has not been available for much more games. And so coming back to the French players like the likes of Mata, Matic, they have been in and around the team. They have got a few chances, but they have looked out of sort. I don't think they have the legs or the pace anymore to be playing at this level in a fast-paced league such as the Premier League. So it would be better for them to move on to a much slower and a more tactical league like the Serie A, especially Roma, where Jose Mourinho have taken charge. I think that would be that might be a good move for Matic or Mata, or for Mata even he can move to his homeland where the football is not as fast paced and as physical as here in the Premier League. So that would be better for them. But based on this season, I can't mark them any higher than 5.5. Apart from that, no other players have had as much game time as the others for me to mark them for the ratings, mark their ratings for the season. Now coming to the manager Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think he has had a decent season. A decent, in fact, would be an overstatement. He has had an okay-ish season. He did well in the league, finishing behind City and above Liverpool and Chelsea, who I believe have much more stronger squads than us. Apart from that, I think he even though got to the business end of most of the tournaments, but failed to win those matches when it mattered the most. He lost in the quarters, in the semis, in the finals, but that won't do for him next season. He needs to win those most important games for us next season, because this club is all about winning. You can't just say that we have been runners-up in the Europa League. That's just not good enough at this club. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, being a legend in this club, he knows this better than any other one. So I would give him a 6 out of 10, just purely on the performance in the league and the fact that we finished above Chelsea and Liverpool in the league. I would give him a 6 out of 10. So that's it for today. Please let us know how you have enjoyed this show today, and if you agree with my ratings, how you would have rated all these players and Ole based on the performances last season. Please let me know in the comment section below. I guess that's it for today. Thanks. Bye bye. Good night.